Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I was a software developer at a mid-sized tech firm. The company had recently hired a new VP of development, Mark, who was keen to make a name for himself by implementing strict coding standards. Mark's rules were unnecessarily rigged and often counterproductive. One such rule was that every single line of code, no matter how trivial, needed to be documented and reviewed by him personally before deployment. He sent this directive out in a Slack message to the entire development team. Sensing that this could lead to trouble, I took a screenshot of the message. I, along with several colleagues, tried to reason with Mark, explaining that this approach would stifle innovation and slow down the development process immensely. But Mark was unyielding, convinced that his way would produce flawless code. Seeing no other option, I decided to maliciously comply. Over the next several weeks, I wrote extensive documentation for every line of code, even for the most self-explanatory functions. Simple changes that used to take a few minutes now took hours, as everything had to be sent to Mark for review. Mark's days were consumed by reviewing mundane code, and his other responsibilities began to suffer. Projects were delayed, deadlines were missed, and costs began to skyrocket as everything came to a screeching halt. Eventually, Mark came to me clearly annoyed and accused me of over-interpreting his rule to cause delays. Calmly, I pulled up the screenshot of his original Slack message and showed him that I was only following his exact instructions. He was taken aback but had no choice but to acknowledge that I had complied precisely with his rule. Shortly after, the CEO took notice of the delays and launched an investigation. When he discovered Mark's overbearing review process, he was livid. One of the delayed projects was a critical update for a major client, and the holdup had cost the company a lucrative contract extension. This loss could be traced directly back to Mark's policy. Mark was promptly fired, and his rule was abolished. You see, Adam and I are no strangers to the shooting range. We're just a couple of regular guys looking to blow off some steam and have some fun. Now, the range is usually a pretty chill place, but this day was destined to be different. We walk in, grab our ear protection, and load up our guns. Just as we're about to start shooting, we notice her, the quintessential Karen. And of course, she's accompanied by her poor 12-year-old kid who seems like he's seen it all before. We decide to ignore them and focus on our shooting. But obviously, Karen had different plans. She starts pacing around, loudly complaining about everything. The noise, the smell, you name it. I glance at Adam and we share a knowing look, like, here we go. Karen then picks up her gun, a Glock by the looks of it, and starts waving it around as if she's auditioning for a Hollywood action movie. I lean over to Adam and whisper, "This lady's a few rounds short of a full magazine." Adam chuckles and says, "Yeah, and I bet she's gonna make sure we know it." As if on cue, Karen saunters over to us. "Excuse me," she says in that tone that instantly makes you want to roll your eyes. "But you boys are making way too much noise. My precious angel here can concentrate with all this racket." Now, let me tell you, our shots were on point, but they weren't anywhere near as noisy as Karen's demands. We exchange glances again, barely containing our laughter. "Sorry, ma'am, we will try to keep it down." Karen huffs, not satisfied, and she walks away with an eye roll. Adam and I continue shooting, occasionally stealing glances at each other and mimicking her over-the-top mannerisms. We're just having a bit fun, nothing malicious. But apparently, Karen has her own idea of fun. She marches back over with a really angry face. "You think this is a joke, huh? Mocking me and my son?" I'm about to explain that we weren't mocking her, but Adam beats me to it. "Oh, come on now, ma'am. We're just here to enjoy some shooting. Lighten up a little." Well, that was the last straw for Karen. She raises her gun, pointing it directly at Adam. My heart starts racing, and I'm ready to intervene if things get worse. Adam, though, remains remarkably calm. "You sure you want to go down this path, ma'am?" he asks with a steady voice. Karen smirks, thinking she has the upper hand. "What are you going to do about it, tough guy?" And that's when Adam drops the first bombshell. Well, for starters, I'm an Air Force pilot. Pretty good shot too. But Karen being Karen doesn't just back down.
Oh please, you're just bluffing to scare me. I'm not buying your act. If you don't stop this nonsense right now, I swear I'll hurt you myself.
I exchange a quick glance with Adam. Things are escalating fast and Karen's not backing down easily. But Adam's not one to give up that easily. He takes a deep breath and with a serious expression tells her, "Alright, you want another fact? Here it is. I have a brain tumor, Karen. Terminal. I've got nothing to lose really. So go ahead, shoot me if you think that'll prove something. In fact, if you do, you'd actually be doing me a favor." I can feel the tension in the air and Karen's bravado wavers for a moment. Her grip on a gun falters.
You're lying,
she stammers. Adam's look never wavers. Do I look like I'm lying? Take a good look at me, Karen. This is a man who's staring death in the face. Let me tell you, I am not scared of dying. Karen seemingly realizes the gravity of the situation. She lowers her gun slightly, uncertain of what to do. And that's when Adam goes for the final play. You see that guy behind me? He nods in my direction. He's not bluffing either. He's got a clear shot and if you make one wrong move, he is going to shoot you dead right in front of your kid. Self-defense, of course. So, is that really what you want? Karen's expression turns from defiance to hesitation, then outright terror. Her son is looking at her with wide eyes, realizing just how serious the situation has become. He glances from Adam to me, clearly torn between her ego and the harsh reality in front of her. In that moment, when the range is dead silent and all eyes are on Karen, she slowly lowers her gun to the table. Adam doesn't waste a second. He moves forward with lightning speed, disarming her before she even comprehends what's happening. The gun clatters to the ground and Adam pins her down with practiced ease. I'm on the phone with 911 explaining the situation as calmly as I can. The range officer hurries over with wide eyes as he takes in the scene. What the hell just happened? Adam shoots him a wry smile. Just your average day at the range, huh? It's not long before the cops arrive. They review the security footage, confirming our side of the story, and Karen is handcuffed, her wild threats reduced to desperate pleas. As the officers lead Karen away, she shoots one last death glare at Adam, but he just stares back with a cold expression. The range officer pats Adam on the back again, this time with even more respect. "You handled that like a damn bro," he says. Adam shrugs, just doing what needed to be done. "Plus, I'm a bro," he says with a chuckle. And that's how our day at the shooting range turned into an unexpected encounter with an entitled Karen. A moment of tense standoff and a dramatic takedown that would make any action movie proud. So let's just say, do not mess with Air Force pilots, do not underestimate the power of a well-timed truce bomb, and definitely don't bring your entitled attitude to a shooting range. Because sometimes life throws you curveballs and you better hope you've got a guy like Adam by your side to knock them out of the park. Edit. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention earlier. The truth about Adam's so-called brain tumor? Yeah, that was a bluff. Adam didn't actually have a tumor or anything remotely close to it. He later admitted that he just came up with that on the spot to throw Karen off balance. Classic Adam, always thinking on his feet. After the whole ordeal, as we were packing up our gear and heading out, I turned to Adam with a smirk. "So, brain tumor, huh? That was quite the ace up your sleeve." Adam grinned back at me and said, "Well, desperate times call for desperate measures. Besides, it seemed to do the trick, didn't it?" We both laughed, shaking our heads at the absurdity of the situation. As it turns out, even a little white lie can go a long way in the right circumstances. And honestly, who could blame Adam for trying everything in his power to defuse that situation? Years ago, my dad met Harold through mutual friends, and they hit it off. I was 18 and in college when I met him, and we never had a close relationship. However, he always seemed to think of himself as a family friend. I was extremely infantilizing and condescending towards me. Every time I saw him, I tried to tell myself it wasn't that bad, only for him to prove me wrong less than a minute later. Harold would disrespect my boundaries, say things like "you're not 19, you're a baby," while I was talking to other people and patronize me. He would also patronize my education or my hobbies wherever he had the chance. He always noticed that annoyed me, to which he'd playfully ask if I hated him. I always said no, but only for my father's sake. The final straw came the day Harold interrupted the barbecue to say, "I really like you, even though you're an impolite brat." I was 20 years old. I've been quiet all day working on a paper during the barbecue, but replied patiently and politely whenever anyone addressed me. And even if that hadn't been the case, I knew he didn't have the right to talk to me like that. After that, I started making an effort to avoid any events I knew he'd be attending. Yesterday was my father's girlfriend's birthday. They threw a small lunch party in my dad's apartment. I went there with my fiancé and our 6-month-old son. Harold was there. I hadn't seen him in months, but he still talked to me as if I was a dumb child. Never mind that I'm engaged, a mother, and 26 years old. I spent the whole party ignoring his helpful advice about me being too young to get married or be a mom. It helped that most of the other guests seemed to disagree with him. My baby spent most of the afternoon sleeping. There is a bassinet in my old room. He woke up hungry, so I went to breastfeed him and excused myself from the party for a while. I got back to jokes and comments, all from Harold, about how I was probably struggling if my son was managing to leash me away for so long. He went on to interrupt a conversation I was having with another of my dad's friends to question pretty much everything about my parenting. He doesn't even have custody of his daughter, by the way, and to make more comments about my age. I decided I couldn't take it anymore after he asked if I thought about giving my baby up for adoption. I got my son and told my fiancé we were leaving. We said goodbye to everyone except Harold. When we got to the door, Harold came to ask why were we leaving. I tried to make up an excuse, but he kept trying to make us stay. After a small back and forth, he jokingly asked if I hated him. And this time I said, "Yes, I do. Can we go now?" He didn't say anything. And we left. On the way home, my fiancé said he was proud of me. My father called this morning to say the opposite though. We had a small fight, but ultimately decided to drop the subject. I'm sure this isn't over, but if it keeps going, it won't be because of me. This is far from my proudest moment, and a small part of me regrets it, but I'm done with that guy. Edit to answer some common questions. I don't think Harold is in love with me. Harold didn't tell me to give up my son. He asked if I thought of doing so when I got pregnant. It was still an awful question, especially since he interrupted a conversation I was having with someone else. My dad's girlfriend's pregnant friend who was asking about my own pregnancy and delivery. He interrupted that conversation to ask that horrible question. I don't like making a big deal out of things unless necessary. If I'm uncomfortable, I leave. If I don't like someone, I avoid them. It's usually less stressful for me. The fight between me and my father ended when I told him about the adoption comment. I don't think he gets that's not the only reason I left, but it was definitely what broke the camel's back. I really don't need my father to stop being friends with Harold. He's a grown man capable of making his own crappy choices. And I never told my dad I hated Harold because I never thought I had to like him in the first place. He's my father's friend, not mine. And I've been distancing myself from Harold since I was 20, meaning I haven't seen him much in the last 6 years. My fiancé was on the other side of the room and wasn't listening to Harold's comments. I filled him in when he got to the car. He's 100% on my side. This whole situation has gotten way out of hand to the point everyone is yelling at everyone and I'm sleeping in a guest bedroom. My wife's parents are at that point in their lives where they can no longer live by themselves. Their children decided the best place for them is an assisted living facility. They started to look into different facilities and admittedly I didn't tell because I figured the 5 adult siblings could handle it, and I was never close to my in-laws. They found one that was perfect and my wife was very excited when she told me about it. I was less than thrilled when I found out our contribution will be roughly $3,000 upfront than $5,000 a month. I immediately questioned why it costs roughly $15,000 upfront fee and $25,000 a month for 2 people in an assisted living apartment. I admit I sarcastically asked if their apartment is next door to Elon Musk's parents. She then told me that we are going to cover the lion's share of the costs because we make more than her siblings. That was the beginning of a week of texts, phone calls, and in-person arguments. She argues that her siblings make less money combined than we do, and some are single, so it would impact them more. Thus, it's only fair we pay more. She also argues that this facility is not the best or most expensive. It's a mid-tier one with the best ratings. According to her, anything lower has bad ratings and could put her parents' safety in jeopardy. My argument is that there are 5 siblings, so the cost should be divided equally between the 5 of them. I also argued that if 5 people can't afford that place, they need to lower their standards. That started the circular argument for hours between cost and safety. I couldn't take it anymore, and in the heat of the moment, I yelled, "We don't make more than your brothers and sisters. I make more than all of you, which is why you all want me to cover the cost of your parents." That was the beginning of my night sleeping in the guest bedroom. I know, as a married couple, I shouldn't consider mine and yours income, but realistically, I do make more than all of them, and I think it's unfair to make me pay the largest portion. What do you all think? Update: I'm going to answer some questions here. I assumed it was $25,000 a month because I assumed it was split 5 ways between the siblings and our share was $5,000 a month. It'll be closer to $10,000 a month and our share is 5. Her parents have assets including a house, so I was told they don't qualify for government assistance. I brought up the idea of selling their house but was shot down immediately. The siblings want to keep the house in the family because their great-grandfather built it or something like that. I can afford to pay it, but I don't want to based on principle. Their division means I'll be paying $5,000 a month while the youngest brother will be paying only $300 a month and will be living in the house. Their thinking is that he'll be paying the insurance and taxes on the house, so he can't afford more than $300. Another update: I am the only child to my parents. While they planned out their retirement, they worked their entire lives to put me through school and supported me through several degrees. I will be solely responsible for and will make sure the remaining days will be comfortable. Per your suggestion, I asked my wife if we're going to contribute this much money to her parents, how they are going to contribute to my parents when their time comes. She answered, "Don't be an idiot. That's an entirely different situation. I don't want ownership of their house because it's very old and needs major work. I brought up the idea of selling the house again and it was shut down again. They are not budging on it. None of us know the laws and regulations when it comes to this, so I finally got her to agree for us to sit down with an estate attorney. Unless I feel up to it, this is probably the last update. I feel completely emotionally drained. I always knew my parents would get old someday, but honestly, I never thought about it."
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.